Hello again and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about some of my unfinished sketchbooks and why I think it is that they fell to the wayside or weren't really working for me. And so today we have these two sketchbooks that we're going to flip through and talk about. So we should probably talk about this one first, to be honest. This sketchbook was, I believe, during quarantine, and was trying a new sketchbook. I was trying to find a sketchbook that I would really like. I didn't like the paper in this, and I struggled with this sketchbook a lot, as you're about to see. We'll go back to the other one. This sketchbook is, do I remember what sketchbook this is? Do you have any info in you? Handbook Journal Co. It's a speedball sketchbook. I like to tape some stuff in the front of my sketchbooks or in the sketchbook, like a diary kind of vibe. I didn't in my last one because I have been very gung-ho about work lately. There were like one or two things taped in there, but I've been trying to keep it more minimal. This is a sketchbook that I did not finish. It is from 2021. This is from almost 2 years ago. I have a lovely note from someone. I have a movie stub, a park ticket, a photo of my partner. I left the first page blank, as I usually do. We're gonna go through some really bad art now. 2021, I was really feeling a slump. I was struggling with my art. I had no idea what direction I wanted to go in or where I was trying to go with my art. I was very much having a hard time. So I was participating in, I think, a Halloween challenge. Yep. These are just some pen drawings. And I think for the color, I was just using mild liners. These are very, these are very bad drawings. There's not a lot of actual, like, drawing in them, if that makes any sense. Like, they weren't with reference or studied, or they were just, they're very rough. I was just struggling. I wasn't sure how to work on my art or better anything. It was a bad time. I was creating a lot of bad art. I do kind of like this guy though, and I might revisit him and redesign him as a little like Halloween drop. He could be cute. It's a little frog with an upside down potion book. He's not too bad. This coloring is horrid and it's bleeding a lot, and I don't know what the point of this was, but you know, it's not horrid. Oh yes, okay, this was when I was starting to draw animals more, which definitely helped. I draw them a lot now. This is a type of eel that just constantly looks like it's screaming, and I was under a lot of stress at this point, and I think that's part of why I was struggling so much with my art, because I couldn't put a lot of time and effort into it, and so it wasn't looking the way I wanted. I felt like I wasn't making progress, but I was under so much pressure and stress, and I had a part-time job that was just absolutely felt like it was strangling me. And here's more bad drawings, bad anatomy. I was still trying to do like an anime cartoony style, and it just wasn't working. Some cute little ghosts drawn with just mild liner. They're just not, there's no time or effort put into them. I was just trying to get something done, so I felt like I was making art still, but I really wasn't. I wouldn't call these art at this point. Like, they're just bad doodles. Some roller skate. I'll call them studies. They're very loosely studies. Why are there so many blank pages in this? A tarot card. That's fun. I don't remember putting this in there, but I'll put that aside. We've got, oh, let me check out this cute little carrot paper clip. What a cute little guy. Put him aside too. Some drawings of food. I was using a lot of just ink brush pens. They weren't feeling right to me. Thin pen wasn't feeling right to me. These were drawings on a picnic we took, on a hiking trail we like. I wasted so many pages. Wow. Goblin Squad Import. Oh, this was when we were brainstorming our collective name, I think. I think this is when we were brainstorming the name for a collective. This is a very weird looking Muppet-mouthed goblin. A list of potential cons. Okay, these are fun. These are fun. I did some illustrations later that were meant to be made into like a field journal type zine, and I never actually printed it, but this was the start of those drawings. I still may eventually print it at some point, but I was coming up with like Fae-inspired woodland creatures. There were these fun mushrooms with false faces. There was this fiddle fern, I believe, inspired bat creature. Some lists for things for our Salem trip, a packing list, blank pages, sticky notes that I think I used for product photos back in the day, blank pages. This might actually be the end of the sketchbook. Yeah. There wasn't really much in this sketchbook. So now that you've seen some bad art, let's talk about why this sketchbook didn't work for me. So the first problem with this sketchbook for me was that at the time I was not in a good headspace. I think I didn't go back to this to finish it later because I had so much stress and pressure on myself when I was trying to use this sketchbook that I did not want to go back to something that I associated with that and those feelings. But also, I didn't like the paper. The paper kind of feels like the paper you get in like a Moleskine sketchbook, and it's too smooth for me. I like when my paper has a bit of tooth or grit to it. It has like this warm beige tint to it. I was in a bad headspace, like I said. I wasn't sure what materials I wanted to use. I wasn't experimenting with materials. It was a bad time all around. And I felt like there was nothing worth going back to in this sketchbook because there was like nothing positive in it. There was nothing positive about what I was making in it. And so I didn't go back to this one. I then tried, I don't really think I was sketchbooking much in between that one and this sketchbook, which is a Hahnemühle watercolor sketchbook. The horizontal composition was fun. I was excited to try it. I had heard good things about this sketchbook. I was working more with gouache. I was kind of feeling out where I wanted to go with my art. I was feeling a lot better. I had left my part-time job and I was working from home. I was in a better headspace. I was more willing to try stuff. So let's flip through here and then talk about why this one also didn't quite make it. Here's some more stuff taped in. My trip to the Morgan Library. which is a wonderful museum. I saw the Little Prince exhibition. Okay. So the problem number one was with the Copics and the markers that I was using sometimes in here. It did bleed through the pages despite them being watercolor paper, and I wasn't a fan of that. But here were some gouache studies of frogs. Let me try and adjust this so it sits more in the middle. It like barely fits in the screen. Ah. Okay. There we go. I was doing more animal studies from the Smithsonian and other reference books that I had gotten. I was trying to, my thought process was if I do more studies, I'll get a hang of how I want to cartoon or shorthand them. So I was doing a lot of animal studies. Here are some gouache paintings of, we have a chameleon, a bird, a snake, some beetles, a wild looking lizard, Venus flytrap. These aren't bad. They were definitely a learning experience. They're very different than how I draw or paint now, but like I said, they were studies. I was trying to feel out how I wanted my art to move forward. I was getting used to the materials. It was working a lot better than the previous sketchbook. My art was getting better. I was feeling better about myself and my art. Here is a little Tamandua drawing and a color chart of some King Art liners that I had tried out, and some bird studies. I guess I'm just gonna have to shift it on the screen because it's slightly too big. It's slightly too wide. Some more bird studies. This is from December 3rd last year. I'm pretty sure this was last year. And I was experimenting with the gouache and colored pencil. I'm pretty sure I have a video from around then of this spread. I do still like, I was experimenting a lot with the texture of painting with gouache, and then the like chunky colored pencil that's like not quite covering it, like leaves some spots through. It's like a nice grainy quality to it that it was getting on top of the gouache or on the paper. The paper itself is nice, like it has a nice toothy quality to it. I was excited about that. I was excited that it could handle the gouache because I was having a lot of fun experimenting there. And you know, I was playing with some shape and some birds. I was painting the little bats from Slime Rancher. I love them. They're so cute. They have such a fun design. And here is a Still Here, Still Life. If you don't know that account, they post really fun still lives to draw or paint or create. And I was kind of getting into a groove. I was feeling better about things, about my art. I was getting some commissions. It was feeling good. Here's some nature paintings, some silly little Christmas drawings. Some more animal studies, but I was trying to change color palettes up. This capybara is horrid, but I do like this manatee. He came out pretty well. The start of my strange ceramics drawing journey was actually in this sketchbook. Here were some ceramics that I had found. They were very, very fun and funky. And I was drawing those. I still wasn't a fan of thin lines. I'm still really not a fan of working with like thin pens for drawing. I like writing with them, but not drawing, which is very strange. Mushroom studies. I love painting mushrooms. I'm still pretty pleased with these. I think there's just something about them that I really enjoy, especially these like just straight up colored pencil drawings. Here are attempts at going chunkier and going thinner with my line work, and I was not fond of either, honestly. I think they both are just not the kind of style that I was going for. It wasn't working for me or for my hand. This is a little snippet from my continuing ed hand lettering class. I really liked the letter R's that I had created for the prompt robotic. And then a fun little landscape practice. I wanted to play around with just colored pencil and see how that was working so that I could maybe try some more plein air drawings. And I was getting closer to what I wanted, but still not quite getting there. Some more attempts to make thin line art work. Some con prep list. Some washi tape designs that I never followed through with. This is, I think, the cons that we applied for a different to-do list. Here we were getting kind of closer to where I am now and what I wanted with my art. I was starting to stop doing more detailed, still not fully realistic. I never did like realistic studies, but I stopped doing the studies as often. I was starting to figure out like how I wanted to represent or cartoon creatures in my style, in my own hand. I was feeling out the kind of materials I wanted and what kind of like line weight and color palette I wanted to work with. Just some fun little frog doodles. This was an attempt, I think, to mix mild liners with colored pencil, and I hate it. It's a strong word, but I just really think there's nothing about it that I think worked out well. This is some planning for an editorial type piece that I wanted to do about dermatillomania. If you don't know about that, I have a video talking about how I have a BFRB and ways that I deal with that. So I wanted to do an editorial style illustration for that, and I did do it digitally, but I wanted to kind of map it out in here. This is from the stamp video. I did tape this in here and do some bat drawings with, I don't remember what brush pen this was. I was still trying to figure out how I wanted to stylize bats. This is pretty close to where I ended up though. I did block prints of a Temendua, and I decided to stamp him in here as the test runs. This was another Still Here, Still Life, because I had gotten the wax pastels, and this was my first time using them, and it's not perfect, but I loved the texture and the color palette, and I immediately fell in love with using the Neocolor wax pastels. They are still absolutely my go-to. This is also from the hand lettering class. It was a V. The prompt was violence, I believe, and so I made it a switchblade. Here were some landscape experiments with the wax pastels. I tried using just the wax pastels at first, and I did not like them on their own the way I was using them. But then I tried layering them on top of the gouache with this Still Here, Still Life, and I was very into it. Then I used the leftover gouache to do some little bats. Here we have some gouache bugs that I liked. What is going on in here? Oh, this was also from my hand lettering class. We were supposed to design lettering for hand tattoos. And I know this wouldn't actually work as a tattoo, but I just kind of wanted to play around with lettering and materials. Is that the end of this? Actually, I got pretty close to finishing this sketchbook. So, why did I abandon this sketchbook? So, I did not finish this sketchbook. I was struggling with filling the pages and spreads with this horizontal layout, and I felt so pressured with the watercolor sketchbook to use gouache. I do still use gouache, and I was still playing around with gouache, but I felt very restricted in this sketchbook because I wanted to play around with markers and highlighters and my mild liners, and those would bleed through the pages, and then the page behind it would be a waste. It would feel messy and chaotic, and it just wasn't working for me. It was feeling kind of restrictive. I had done so much like formal attempts to like find my style and just training and studies and just really struggling to figure out where I was heading again. And I did end up in the right direction. I did find where I wanted to end up, which you can see in my recent sketchbook tour. But it just became so much pressure, and I didn't feel like I had freedom in this sketchbook. I didn't feel like I had any idea or control over the materials I was using, and it felt very restrictive. I wasn't a fan of the layout of the sketchbook itself. I was super excited with the paper at first, but then when I realized that it was only good for certain things, it kind of lost its appeal. And so because the markers weren't working, I was trying some like thin liners and feeling frustrated because my drawings just did not translate well that way. And then I found the wax pastels, and I loved those, but for some reason on this paper it was smudging on the opposite side and it was rubbing it, and see, like, they were getting on each other and it just wasn't keeping well. It was just kind of sitting loose on the pages, and it just became a bit of a struggle. The stickers didn't even want to stay on this cover. It was a struggle. So, speaking of sketchbooks, I will do a quick thing in case people haven't seen my other sketchbook video. The Strathmore Mixed Media 500 sketchbook is the one that I did in my last video and I'm using again now. This is a new one from that video. And this is one of the first few sketchbooks that I've been able to just like stick with and actually complete. because the size is perfect. It's a regular kind of layout. The paper is really good quality. I don't have to worry about bleed. It has a bit of tooth and grain to it. It's a nice shade of white. It's not too warm or cool toned. There's like a very slight hue to it, but not enough to bother me. I know that sounds a little wild, but things like that just kind of get to me as someone who has specific neurodivergencies. When picking out a sketchbook for you, it's okay to not finish it. If a sketchbook isn't working for you, it is okay to leave it unfinished, try something else, try another sketchbook. You don't have to show everybody. It's about making it work for you and bettering your craft, or getting out emotions, or enjoying a hobby, or getting work done. If a sketchbook isn't working for you, like if the paper is not feeling right, if the composition or layout of the book isn't feeling right, you're not going to get work that you want and are proud of if you feel bothered by these things. You need to feel comfortable in your sketchbook. Your sketchbook is a place to feel comfortable and vulnerable and free to explore and express yourself. And so that's essentially why I wanted to do this video. I feel like a lot of people are like, well, I have to finish it. You don't have to finish it if it's not working for you. Don't force yourself to do that. It's gonna negatively impact your art, probably, like it did for me for a bit. Like, I was very frustrated when things weren't working out in that green sketchbook. And ever since working in a sketchbook that I feel I have the freedom to experiment with materials and kind of just relax in, my art has gotten a lot better. Hopefully that makes sense and can be helpful to someone. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons who make me creating content like this possible. If you would like to join, as of August 1st, I will be running a sticker sheet tier. My tier before was a print and a vinyl sticker, but I've actually changed it to be fun little sticker sheets, and they're going to be 4x6. There's going to be a different theme. It'll also include digital downloads like phone wallpapers, that kind of fun stuff, behind the scenes content, access to what kind of videos I might be making, what kind of products are going to be up in the shop soon. So if you'd like to support me, feel free to check that out. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.